Big news, Tesla's full self-driving has been finally launched in Australia. But here's the question, is it worth the $10,000 they're asking you to pay up front? Let's find out today and work out if I'm ever going to drive again. The first thing you notice is just how smooth and cautious it is. It kind of feels like the programming has been told that there's an elderly family member sitting in the back seat and just to be as smooth and careful as possible. And that isn't necessarily a bad thing at all. As I'm still learning and getting used to it, this is my first experience in a self-driving car. It's actually refreshing to feel its caution. The last thing you want it to do is just go crazy from the get-go. And then you feel like you have to take over at all times. I haven't really felt like I've needed to take over at all. There is a common complaint which I have noticed. It seems to sit under the speed limit, even if you have told it to go the speed limit or with a 5% offset. It does like to sit under the speed limit, but again, that's not necessarily a bad thing. In Australia, the speed cameras can get you within a kilometre or two of going over the speed limit, so I'd actually prefer it to stay under. Let's see how it approaches this maniac. Smooth and graceful as always. I never thought that this would land in Australia. I thought the lawmakers would prevent anything like this from happening, and I think, look, it's not a grey area. Officially, it is a driver's aid, similar to radar assisted cruise control or the basic autopilot. Officially, you're still in charge and you have to be ready to take over at any moment, which is fine. You have to be alert. Similarly to having the basic autopilot on the freeway, you have to stay alert at any moment, but after 24 hours, I'm actually trusting it more and more. It's hard to describe, but with basic autopilot, you feel like you needed to be attentive the whole time. And with this, it draws you into a sense of lull that you can relax a little bit more, even though you know that you're not meant to. It's kind of difficult to keep yourself alert the whole time, because if it was doing a worse job, your brain would fire up a little bit more and you would be ready to go. But because it's doing such a good job, you do relax a little bit, which is actually a bad thing. You almost want it to be a little bit worse. But you're still in control the whole time. There's no excuses if you're speeding and the police pull you over. You can't use the excuse of, the car was just doing, it's doing its own thing. You are in control the entire time. We've been very lucky on skipping a lot of the first iterations of autopilot that the US had, and coming out with, I believe it's 13.2.9. We've landed, our first impressions are a really good, refined, smooth experience. So we're lucky, we're lucky for the pioneers over in the States for all the trials and tribulations that they've jumped through. We do have a left lane ending up here, so it'll be interesting to see how it will approach this merge. Perfect. I have noticed if there's one criticism that I have is the use of indicators. Quite often a few roundabouts it hasn't indicated, or it's assumed that it's continuing straight, where I would call it a clear left or a clear right. And the use of the indicators seems to be the last moment possible. I'd usually like to give a full 3 indicator clicks or 3 indicator repetitions before you actually turn. It seems to be fine with 1 or 2, which is fine. You're indicating where you're going, but I would like to give motorists a warning of where we're going. Hopefully it'll give us an example right here. We are approaching a left turn. Oh, with all that being said, clearly Grok is listening to me and has already improved, because we had a full 3 indicator clicks before we turned there. So it's proven me wrong. It's proven me wrong. One thing I don't tend to understand is if we do have the same stack as what the US has, or is a complete retrain. Clearly, we've got completely different road rules. We drive upside down here and on the wrong side of the road, so clearly there has been some retraining. But for example, right now we're going at 40 kilometers an hour in a 60 kilometer an hour zone. So I'm gonna have to give it a little bit of acceleration here. It's interesting, and I'm not sure what the process is, but there's plenty of times where it sits well below the speed limit, and you have to almost give it a poke and it wakes itself up to go, let me speed up now. And I have particularly noticed that, especially when going onto a freeway, like in an on-ramp scenario, it seems to hesitate. It doesn't want to go up to speed until you give it an encouragement, and then it'll do its thing just fine. Another roundabout here. I'd call this a straight, so I don't think there's a need for an indication here. There is subtly different rules between the states and Australia about indicating out of a roundabout. I always do it just in case, and I think it gives motorists an indication of where you're going. So in that case, it did actually indicate out, which I'd call a win. All in all, it's been very uneventful, and it's one of the hardest things to try and describe. Is we've had this car for over a year now, and we've known the capability that it does have, but we just haven't been able but it hasn't been able to show it, and then suddenly, just with a software update, it's able to drive itself, which is just completely nuts. It's like having a kid that hasn't been able to reach their potential yet, and you know what's in them, and then they suddenly go to an athletics carnival and win first in a sprint race. It's like, I know you could do that, and it's just you almost feel proud that has occurred. It's like, well done. You see all the data that the cameras are pulling in on the visualizations, and you knew it wanted to drive, but it hasn't been able to, and the shackles have been loosened, at least here in Australia and New Zealand, and it's awesome. At the time of recording, it is $10,100 for full self-driving within Australia. They have announced a Australian $149 subscription model that is coming soon, so that will be coming, but it's not available just yet. It's a crazy experience that it fits in with other drivers. I think it's one of the greatest compliments is that no one knows that the car is driving itself, because it just fits in. It's not doing any weird jiggy movements. It's not waiting until the last minute and trying to cut in. For better or worse, because it's been trained on human data, it seems human to others. You can see my hands when I'm a little bit nervous of what it's doing, or it's approaching a situation that I deem a little bit dangerous, because I'm ready to go. I guess you have to be ready to go at any moment, but you can be a little bit more relaxed at certain situations. But you can see how relaxed I already am after just 24 hours. One thing that this has happened a few times, it has gone to let people in, but there's no way of the car knowing that it's letting people in. Like, I wish that there was a robotic hand. In Australia, the standard signal is, you can go now. I wish the car had some way of indicating to pedestrians on the outside world that, hey, I've seen you, let it go. I've had to trust it and sort of told it that it can do it. That's strange. Even the smallest things of just letting a pedestrian go is it's wacky to see. What is it going to do? What is it? A little bit slow, but almost a little bit Austin Powersy. But all in all, good job. The other way it kind of feels like the car is behaving is, when you go on your driving test and you are just being super careful, going well under the speed limit, just checking everywhere. It feels like it's doing that. It feels like it's nervous to make a mistake. Which, again, don't get me wrong, I completely back it, because what you would prefer it to go the other day, where it's just a complete maniac and making mistakes everywhere? God, no. I trust it. It's doing its job. It's keeping you safe. It's interesting as well, like prior to full stealth driving coming out in Australia, I'd say it didn't really understand our traffic lights, because our traffic lights are all vertical. Particularly in a right-hand turn like this one here, it would sometimes misinterpret that as being a red light for us, and it would just emergency brake. So it's good to see that for whatever reason, its recognition of Australian traffic lights are much better. Now, the expensive question is it worth $10,000? It's difficult. It's difficult to give that a one-word answer. I think it's going to just be highly dependent on your own circumstances. I think a subscription of $149 a month is it's a much lower barrier to entry having a subscription model, because then you can see if it fits within your lifestyle or not. The cutoff point for the $10,000 up front, making it cheaper than a subscription model, is currently about five to 6 years. So if you do see yourself keeping your Tesla for more than 5 to 6 years and you see benefit in it, look, buying up front makes a whole lot of sense. And especially if you are packaging it up in a loan or a novated lease, buying it up front makes a whole lot of sense. But is it worth it to someone like me, who I do enjoy driving? I just don't know. I think on long trips it makes a whole lot of sense, and it takes a lot of the stress out of driving. And you can, when you're doing a multi-hour trip and you feel fatigued afterwards, I can see this just helping with that completely. However, someone who enjoys the art of driving, it does take a little bit of the fun out of it. And where it is currently, because it is supervised, which means you're in control the whole time, it's in an interesting spot at the moment, because if it was better and completely unsupervised and you can perform other tasks like watching a video or catching up on some emails, I think the benefit is a lot easier at that point. However, we're clearly a few years off from that. As much as it is safe, you are still in charge, you are still supervising, you're still taking over if need be. If it ever gets to the point where it is completely unsupervised, I think it makes a whole lot of sense from a financial standpoint, because of the, you say if you're commuting 2 hours a day, say for example you were commuting 2 hours a day, getting 2 hours back if the car could completely drive itself and you could perform work, errands, tasks, getting 2 hours back in the day, that would be invaluable. And I think from a financial standpoint, it makes a whole lot of sense then. But we're a little bit far away from that now. As much as it feels safe, you are still in control and you still need to remain alert. And there's no other task that you can do other than being available and ready to go to take over. So it's a hard standpoint. However, if you had kids and you constantly had to look back because they were fighting, I think there's a if you had kids and a lot of distractions in the car, I think there is a real argument for it being safer, because it's got however many cameras looking 32 times a second or whatever the poll rate is. It feels like, especially in those situations where you're taking your gaze away from driving, it feels like it does better at that, especially in long trips. And so from that standpoint, if you had distractions in the car, like little distractions, aka kids, I think it makes perfect sense. However, if you are someone like me who enjoys the art of driving, I'm on the fence. I'm on the fence. Being a tech lover, it is insane. I'm gobsmacked the entire time as driving itself. From a pure technological standpoint, I'd pay the money. However, do I see direct benefit in my day-to-day life? I don't think so. And for me, it's hard to describe, but because it drives so well, it is hard to keep alert and attentive the whole time. And I mean, not just, being available, but I mean properly alert and attentive. It's almost better if the car did a worse job. Like, for example, basic autopilot on the freeway, it did an okay job, but you knew you had to be there and your mind was just ticking over. Whereas this is driving really well. So it's difficult to keep yourself properly alert and attentive the whole time, it's a bit of a catch-22, because it's doing such a good job where you almost want it to do a little bit of a worse job to keep you on your toes the whole time.
I think to sum it up with, is it an insane technological masterpiece? 100%. You're just in awe every time you drive the car of just the amount of computational power that has gone into creating this, right? But is it worth the $10,100? I think only you can answer that. Like it all really depends on how you drive, how much you like driving, how many distractions are in the car. I think the recommendation is to wait for the subscription model, and then you can at least trial it for a month or two just to see if it fits, and if you like it, and you can always just cancel it at the end. If you liked today's video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing, and let me know in the comments if there's anything else you'd like to see. Thank you.